at risk. We are telling kids all across America, you cannot come up here unless you get what the Democrats tell you is the best thing for your health. And even though there are some scientists who say that it actually may imperil your health, you don't get a choice, and you can't be part of the nationwide Senate program. You can't be part of this elite group unless you submit, unless you bend the knee to the Democrats, unless you say, my body belongs to the Democrat Party. My body will be injected with whatever the Democrats tell me I need to do because I don't have control over my medical decisions. The Democrat Party does. This is obscene, and the Democrat majority should be embarrassed that they are here today telling us that American parents and American families are not smart enough to make their own decisions. In the letter, Dr. Prasad and his colleagues wrote that the underlying health plays a substantial role in COVID-related mortality. An inclusion of mortality not related to COVID-19 in observational studies would provide important context. So in other words, it looks like the studies that may have shown any indication that boosters might help were incorrectly performed. But the vast majority of the studies have shown no effect on transmission, hospitalization, or death. They do not exist, and I would love for the Democrats, when they stand up and talk about forcing kids to do this, if they would present the studies for us that show why or show that the booster vaccine actually aids in reduction of transmission, hospitalization, or death of adolescents. Even from within the government, though, some have resisted the ever-expanding booster mandates. In 2021, the director and deputy director of the FDA's Office of Vaccine Research and Review, not someone who's opposed to vaccines, someone who's been involved with the development and promotion of vaccines his entire career, resigned. Two of these guys resigned, citing White House pressure to approve third doses for all adults, writing damning op-eds critical of the FDA's subsequent decision to do so. One of these op-eds ran in the Washington Post and was co-authored by Dr. Paul Offit. Once again, not an opponent of vaccines, not an opponent of the COVID vaccine, a professor of pediatrics and a director of Vaccine Education Center at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, a longtime advocate of vaccines who's been involved in the mainstream pro-vaccine community, objected. As a member of the FDA's Vaccine Advisory Committee, Dr. Offit did not support widespread boosting. He and two former FDA officials wrote that healthy young persons with 2 mRNA vaccine doses is extremely unlikely to be hospitalized with COVID. So the case for risking any side effects, such as myocarditis, diminishes substantially. Dr. Offit even advised his own son not to get a booster because he was already well protected against severe disease. So here we have advocates of the vaccine, mainstream scientists who work in the vaccine community, who've been promoting vaccines for the health of the community. These are not people opposed to vaccines saying the risks of the disease. This really encapsulates the debate here. Your health care is about you. You're not a statistic. The Democrats somehow feel you are a cog in their wheel, and you're just supposed to do what everybody does and do as you say. But that's why you make the decision. Instead, they want a blanket mandate. And by doing it to the pages here and forcing them to submit to this, what they are doing is setting a terrible example for the country. For participation in normal life, the vaccine's diminishing of efficacy means the booster campaign will never end. What does that mean? The virus is evolving. It's like the flu. It's changing every 3 or 4 months. The vaccine becomes outdated within 3 or 4 months. So if you're at risk, by all means, keep getting the updated vaccine. We're not even mandating the updated vaccine. We're mandating a booster, and often a booster that's a year or 2 old and has no effect at all on the vaccine, even for people who are susceptible to this. But we need to let the individual, kids and their parents, make this decision. When we consider the rules for the pages, we ought to ask, will these policies be expected to continue indefinitely? COVID's with us forever. COVID is now the new flu. Fortunately, it's become less deadly over time. It was quite deadly in 2020, and each successive evolution of the virus has made it less deadly. The death rate is dramatically reduced. Even at its peak, the death rate was about 0.3%, about 3 times greater than the seasonal flu. Still meant 1 million Americans died either from COVID or with COVID. But it's now lessened in severity. Are they going to continue to tell us how to make our health care decisions forever? Are Democrats so insistent that they know better than everyone else that we will be beholden to bending the knee and asking their